this life ain't fair. And I know that you're going nowhere. Well, don't blame me for what you've done, 'cause I know that you are having fun.
Welcome to the Clarified Realty Podcast, exposing the real estate secrets your agent doesn't want you to know. Here's your host, Tom Clary.
Well, don't you just walk away. That's when I'll say.
Welcome to the Clarified Realty Podcast. My name is Tom Clary. I'm a licensed real estate agent in the state of California. I spend my time helping buyers and sellers, mostly in Calabasas and the lovely San Fernando Valley, but also in other areas of Los Angeles. My usual co-host, Ron Bruno, will not be here today. I'm just kind of getting over a rather nasty cold, so we're recording this on an off day, and he couldn't make it, but he will definitely be with us on the next podcast. My topic for today is going to be focused on the house sellers out there. We've been spending a lot of time talking to home buyers, and I thought it was time for the folks out there who want to sell their house to finally get some love. So today we're going to be talking about the ultimate secret for getting your house sold. It's what I call, quote unquote, telling the story of your home. I'm going to go over how imperative it is to make an emotional connection with potential buyers and how that translates into higher nets and hopefully quicker sales for you, the seller. I'm going to talk about the ways to develop a compelling, interesting narrative for the marketing of your house, and then how, after you've done that, find the audience that is out there looking for you. But first, I think it would probably make sense for me to give a little background about myself. I think it's going to give a bit more context to this whole conversation and explain how I came up with this whole strategy of telling the story of your home in the first place. For almost 20 years before I became a real estate agent, I worked in the film industry as a visual effects producer for film and television. While working in the industry, I was actually lucky enough to be a part of 3 movies that won the Academy Award for visual effects. There was Independence Day. That was my first project I actually worked on. Titanic, and a movie called What Dreams May Come. It's a gorgeous movie with the late, great Robin Williams. I highly recommend you check it out sometime. My team also won the Emmy for the HBO miniseries The Pacific. It was a fantastic job, and I loved it. It was absolutely, magical in that very kind of Hollywood sense of the word. Not to be too romantic about it, because it was a lot of long hours and 40-hour days, but every single day I would go to work and I'd sit behind some of the greatest storytellers of our time, and I just soak it in like a sponge. What I learned from them was really quite incredible. What I learned was that the craft of storytelling, using a compelling narrative and empathy in order to connect with the emotions of an audience, in order to create a response. They were masters of it. Absolute masters, making lasting, deep connections that millions upon millions of people around the world could relate to. It literally crossed all borders, all languages. I endlessly marveled at it, and all the while it was taking notes. I would take every little gem I saw on how to influence and persuade other people. I'd tuck it away in my pocket for later, because you see, the entire time I had a little bit of a mistress on the side, and she was a selfish, cold-hearted vixen. She refused to share me with anyone, and her name was real estate. I eventually left the movie biz, but I took along with me all these valuable tools these great storytellers had taught me. These tools have been proven to be invaluable in connecting with potential buyers by helping to tell compelling stories, touching their emotions in such a way that they can viscerally place themselves inside your home before they even set foot into it. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and I'll talk about some of the details of how I do that a little bit later in the episode. But But first, I think it's important to talk about how other agents, the status quo, market properties and how they often just fall so short of really doing what's needed to get the job done. So in order to understand what goes wrong so often, I have to first shatter a little illusion for you. This might be a little painful for you, so I'll try to be gentle, but here it is. Your favorite real estate agent, the one that you've used again and again because they're just so awesome. They pop by your house with a little gift saying, I was just driving by and I thought you might like this little knickknack. Or that one that sends you an email, or gives you a phone call out of nowhere just to wish you, happy anniversary or happy birthday. Yeah, that one. Well, guess what? They're not your friend. Swear to God, it's a load of bullshit. I'm constantly amazed how many people constantly fall for this. Your birthday, your anniversary, they're on a calendar in their database. They have systems in place to make sure that they have reasons to call you. They call them, quote unquote, touches, as in, have you touched them lately so they don't forget you? Seriously, they sit at their desk at their computer, and a little notice comes up on the screen. It says, bing, hey, it's so-and-so's anniversary of when they bought their house. And they reach down into a big cardboard box next to their desk, grab some sort of swag, a pot holder, a refrigerator magnet, and it just so happens to have their name and phone number on it. What a coincidence, right? And the next thing you know, they're knocking on your door, but they don't have any illusions. It's not because they have some sort of amazing friendship with you. You're just stop number 3 out of 10 that day. Time and time again, I hear people say, "Oh, we love so and so. She's a great agent and a really great friend." Brah. I literally say to myself, "How naive can you be? Do you really need to make a connection with another human being so badly that you would believe such an incredible load of horse, you know what?" But when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. For the most part, for WAs, the weak agents, just because they don't know better, but especially for the SAs, the salesperson agents, the more they can commoditize you, the better. The more they can build an assembly line, the faster they can get you through their pipe. Well, the same goes for when you're selling your house. These are really busy agents sometimes. The more they can systemize the process, the less energy they have to expend on you. The more appointments they can make with other potential clients, the more business they get. The more time they have to take, reinventing the wheel, as they would call it, means money out of their pocket. When it comes time to sell your house, they literally have a checklist that they go through. Photos, click, 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 check. On the MLS, check. Put a sign out front, check. Right? The less brain power they need to spend, the easier it is for them to move on to the next one. They never actually take the time to stop and ask themselves, what's the best way to sell this house? And I believe that's what separates the protector agents like me from all the others. We realize that every home has its own story to tell. By trying to shoehorn every single house they list into the same marketing box, they do a disservice to their clients. What usually happens is they reduce the house to some sort of widget that never puts the potential buyer emotionally inside the house, picturing themselves living in it. Or even worse, the marketing is so contradictory to the actual home. And I'll go into that a little bit later too. And the property just languishes there on the market until the listing expires. The story that the agent is telling just doesn't make sense. It doesn't jibe when the buyer shows up in person and looks around and says, this isn't what I was expecting. So that's why an agent using a marketing system is so dangerous to you as a seller. Your home is unlike any other out there on the market. Even if you're in the most homogeneous tract home in the middle of the suburbs, for Christ's sake, you and your home have a story to tell. And trust me, your potential buyers, they're out there listening. So what's the first step to doing this? How do you decide which is the best direction to tell the story of your house? A question, it's very similar to what a storyteller has to ask themselves when they first get an idea. What genre does this story even belong in the first place? I mean, there's lots of ways to tell the exact same story, but writers have to ask, is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Maybe it's a Western. The same exact story can have several drastically different tones or settings, right? Let's say I write a movie about a guy caught in a loop that he can't get out of, right? You automatically might think, Groundhog Day, right? But wait a second. What about Edge of Tomorrow? That's the Tom Cruise movie where, this guy is caught in a loop he can't get out of. It's the same exact movie, except one is an amazing comedy. The other is this slick sci-fi action movie. So the first step for an agent is to take a look at a home and determine what framing or genre the home is going to best be portrayed in, and what type of buyer is going to be searching for it. Now, 9 times out of 10, the house is going to let you know right off who your potential buyer should be. If we're talking about a 2-story house on the side of a cliff with lots of windows and verandas a kid could fall out of and no yard, I'm not going to tell a story of how it's a family-friendly house. On the other side of that coin, if it's nestled in the crook of some cozy, sleepy cul-de-sac right next to an elementary school, I'm not going to be pitching it to the, urban movie star luxury set. Either way, a good protector agent is going to be taking the time to analyze the best genre the house belongs in. When they do that, something amazing happens. The audience, the perfect potential buyer for it, usually reveals themselves and can be more easily targeted. When a WA or an SA use a one-size-fits-all system, it's just a shotgun approach. They shoot in the dark and hope that by some miracle they hit something. I mean, they may luck out and hit someone every once in a while, but I'd rather have 2 or 3 buyers that are passionate about a home and will fight each other to the bloody end in order to get it. When you start talking in terms of story, you're working on a different level than most sellers and agents. When done right, you and your agent are making an emotional connection with the potential buyer, and they will usually offer more for the home if they quote unquote, get it. And that ends up netting you more in the end and putting more money into your pocket. I don't know about you, but that seems like the best end goal to me. Now, it's important that even when your agent chooses what they think is the best story to tell about your home, they have to make sure the story is one that's consistent and congruent with what you're trying to portray. There's an agent that I know of that has a lot of, really nice luxury listings. You watch the video walkthroughs of his houses, and everything is so opulent and lush. He usually, hires models and rents a spiffy sports car to drive up to the front, and it's all slick, really sexy, right? Don't get me wrong. A lot of it is good stuff. Heck, I'd like to live that way and could easily picture myself living in these houses, but my wallet has a different story to tell, right? But anyway, so one time he got this listing, and it was in a different part of town than usual. It was gorgeous, and it was a beautiful, over-the-top, multi-million-dollar house, here in a really great neighborhood. And the agent thought he was, going to be really slick, like usual. He does all the normal stuff. He has a great photographer that comes in and takes really beautiful shots, and all the stuff he usually does. But he sort of half recognizes that it isn't one of his celebrity hip-hop star luxury homes that he usually sells. It's more like at its heart, a family home. It's in a really family area, close to some really great schools and malls. But because of his own branding, because he's, that guy, and that may be his system, I don't know. But he pulls out all his old tricks for the video of the home. I'm watching it. And it starts out with this long aerial drone shot over this crazy expensive convertible, pulling up at the front door. And this leggy supermodel gets out, one crazy long leg and then the other. And then there's like this really handsome model guy that looks, stupid, rich and tan that gets out of the driver's seat. And I'm like, not sure where this is going, because I can see the front of the house and it's not some sort of cool, slick, modern architecture. It's a great home. Don't get me wrong, but it looks, homey, right? It looks like somewhere mom and dad would live. So anyway, they get in the house, and the two models are, doing what they do, man. They're pouring each other wine in the kitchen, really romantic kind of stuff, and she starts, making sexy eyes at him, and he makes sexy eyes at her. And then next thing you know, they're heading out to the pool, and this is no joke. This is no joke. She's got, I swear, I can't thinking about it. I can't even, I'm laughing here. I swear to God, she's got on a G-string and 6-inch high heels going out to the pool. So they're swimming around in this gorgeous, pool, and there's all these really long sweeping takes of these two just being rich and better than everybody. But that's when it gets really weird. So I'm sure the agent, he's a smart agent. He does lots of business. He knew that there was a congruency problem with the story he was telling, but he wanted to have his cake and eat it too, right? So they're swimming around in their G-string and Speedos and outrun like these 3 preteen kids just getting home from soccer practice or something. And I'm like, oh, no way. And I swear to God, I'm not lying here. For the rest of the video, the supermodel, now mom, right, is in her high heel shoes and G-string playing basketball with the 3 kids on their own, regulation basketball court. I'm like, come on. Seriously? What a complete and utter mess. Like, hey, mom, great butt. Let's play some basketball. He wanted the story of the house to be 2 different things, but instead he ended up with a jumbled misfire that just completely confuses the audience in the end. That's the absolute opposite of what you want to do. That's almost worse than doing it with the paint by numbers kind of system. The luxury market is going to look at it and say, well, I can see the house, and that's not what I want. I want something slick and chic. You're wasting my time. The family market is going to look at it and say, well, it's nice. I do like to play basketball with my kids, but do I have to wear, do I have to be half naked when I do it? It turns out to be a jumbled mess of messages, and neither side wants anything to do with it. Nobody can or will connect with it emotionally. Thus, you've now turned off 2 audiences instead of 1. So not only do you want to have a story to tell, but you want to make sure that it makes, that it stays consistent to the point you wanted to communicate and stays absolutely clear across all channels. So anyway, another important aspect of telling the story of your home I want to discuss before we go into the actual, nuts and bolts of how a story gets told, is the aspect of basically telling the actual story of your home. I don't mean to be cheeky here, but there are a lot of homes out there that have amazing stories behind them. During the time I've been out there in the market, I've been to homes that had, famous tennis players that played on their tennis courts. I've been to houses that used to, have parties where famous rock stars like, Linda Ronstadt used to go and party away the 70s. All of these things, add incredible interest to a listing. And your agent should be asking you questions to find these things out, to draw them out from you. If they're not asking for cool background things about the house, they're just trying to put you into their system, into their box. It makes me so angry whenever I hear about these missed opportunities, because things like these add value to potential buyers. Think about it. Put yourself in your future buyer's shoes for a second. they're throwing a big party in the backyard with a bunch of people from their office, and your buyer is standing at the barbecue, grilling up steaks, and up comes that guy, Bob from accounting, the one that's, always, talking about how awesome his life is. He's got a beer in his hand. He looks around. He says, nice house. Your buyer doesn't even look up from the grill, he just, kind of says, hey, thanks. Did you know that Elvis Presley was friends with the previous owner and he used to sleep over in the guest house? No kidding. I mean, people love to boast about that kind of stuff. Somehow owning the house connects them to that celebrity and they love it. I mean, they haven't just bought your house. They've bought that story right along with it. You should be asked for these kinds of stories, but often you're not. Just make sure that, when you are about to sell your house, you let your agent know about these, cool historical things. Otherwise, you're just wasting incredible opportunities. So let's get down to the ways that we go about telling the stories. These are, for lack of a better word, the medium that the agent works in. Like the artist with their clay, their oils, their watercolors. These are the tools that we use as agents every day to communicate the narrative that we want to get across to your potential buyers. The first one I'm going to discuss is absolutely key, and that's staging. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply into it today because we're actually going to have one of my favorite stagers in the world, Pam Sandel, on in a few weeks for her own episode of the podcast. But I do want to touch upon the role it plays in relation to today's discussion of how staging helps to tell the overall story of the house, right? Yes, of course, you stage a home to remove clutter, make it look cleaner, and have less of an imprint of the seller. But I also take it to one other additional level. See, this is the way I look at it. Let's say you have a home, right? And that's the book or the movie or the play, the whole house in its entirety. Well, if you look at it that way, then if that's the macro and you divide it down further into the micro, then each room or area of the house are the chapters of the book, the scenes of the play or the movie. So if we're trying, as we said before, to tell one consistent story, then we also need to make sure that the rooms don't contradict each other either. Each room needs to do its part to tell one consistent, non-confusing story. If you have an open house, or showing, and you have someone come through, you don't want them to walk into a room and go, "What the hell is this? What is this room supposed to be?" Or, why would they decorate the room all country and have the rest of the house be all minimalist or postmodern? I mean, the human mind craves flow and coherence. When it gets these mental stops, it's hard to overcome them. I'd like to say that buyers are forgiving sorts, but they are really not. They are brutal with these things. I've seen buyers walk into a house and say they wouldn't even think of it because the wallpaper that's up in one room looks awful. I'm like, you can paint that away pretty easy, right? And they're like, no thanks, what else have you got? You don't want to give potential buyers reasons to say no. With every room, you want to take another bullet out of their gun. A stager helps with this. They can help you to create a clean, single narrative for the house. The good ones are worth their weight in gold. I swear by them and recommend them to all of my clients. Next is photos. And I'm going to group this in with open houses as well, and you'll understand when I'm done. Why? Well, now I'll be honest. This is, in my humble opinion, the single most important aspect of telling the story of your home. Why do I say that? Well, several years ago, before the internet started to take such a huge part of almost every potential buyer's home search, agents, they used to say that open houses were absolutely worthless. They were just an excuse to hook up with buyers. They were out looky-looing and were eventually going to buy. But for actually selling the home, Well, they were just another waste of the agent's Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And then along came the internet, and all those buyers who wanted to wait until the absolute last minute to get an agent involved, they would go surfing for houses on their own at home, on their couches, and then go to these open houses all on their lonesome. Now, they're going out all on their own and finding the house they want and then finding the agent they want to get involved. It's because of this that the pictures you take of your home need to be 100% professional quality. Because this is the thing, more than anything else nowadays, that hooks your audience. This is the thing that piques their interest and gets them to walk through the front door of your home and fall in love, hands down. That's why your agent should be putting a huge priority on doing them right and doing them professionally. And by the way, a good professional photographer, they're not that crazy expensive. No matter what the price point of your property is, there is no excuse to not do professional or professional level photography. If you see your agent take out an iPhone and start walking around your house shooting, you need to see if there's some way out of your contract. Seriously, I'm not joking here. It either means that they are too cheap to pay a photographer because your home is small potatoes to them, or they are so new they have no money or resources to pay a photographer up front to do the photos. Seriously, that is no joke. Say to them, I need to find an agent that cares more about my home than you do. It's seriously that important. Now, full disclosure here, I do my own photography, but that's a control freak thing, not because I can't afford them or because one house is worth spending more resources on than another. No, the reason I do my own photos is because I'm confident no one will do the photos better than I will. Those years that I spent in the film industry behind all those directors and cinematographers I spoke about before, learning how they work and tell stories visually, this is where it really comes into play. And I don't use an iPhone either. I have professional gear and I light each room with multiple light sources to really get the best images possible. For me, the magazine, Architectural Digest, that's my standard. If the photo couldn't belong on the pages of Architectural Digest, it doesn't belong in one of my listings. If you ever want to check out some of my photography, please go check out my Instagram account. It's Clarified Realty, and you'll see what I mean. I do this for each and every house. I don't pick and choose the ones that I'm going to make more money on. That should never be the prerequisite for doing your absolute best to market a property. There's never, ever an excuse for that. After photos, we get to the description of the property. So this is very important as well, and something your agent should be taking their time with as well. When your agent writes the description, while it should, of course, tell the objective facts and details of your home, 2 bedrooms, 3 baths, blah, 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 blah. You really want to try and do better than that. Why? Because this is another opportunity to connect emotionally with your potential buyer. This is another bullet in your gun. You don't want to waste it. My hope is that your agent has a little bit of writing talent to, turn a phrase and create a mental picture of what it feels like to live in your home. You can, do this, by, being descriptive of features, but at the same time, what I like to call directing the camera of the mind's eye, making the reader's imagination go where you want it to go. Sure, you can say something dry like, large master bedroom with high ceilings and skylights in the master bedroom. But isn't it better to create a more impactful mental image? Something that puts that potential buyer directly in that place. Like, imagine yourself waking up to a cascade of warm, natural light from dual skylights in the spacious yet elegant master bedroom. Which one of these two would you rather see? I know which one I'd like to see, and I just made it up. You'd want to see the second one, right? But seriously, one tells you the facts of the room, the other creates an emotional context. You can picture yourself waking up in bed, white, Egyptian linens flowing around you, a glorious beam of sunlight gently stirring you awake. Come on, you can't compare the two. Look at what a little extra detail and a wee bit of drama can add to a bland, dry description. So make sure that your agent really takes the time to take, how they describe the house to the next level. It can really do wonders for capturing the imagination. Something that's starting to be more widely done amongst real estate agents is video. More and more agents are starting to make video commercials for their properties. But like I mentioned before with the sexy half-naked basketball mom, unless they're incredibly skilled storytellers, they can often get themselves into corners that they would probably prefer not to be in. Now, there is one positive aspect of video that is worth mentioning, and that's editing. Just like the author or or a director, their real talent lies not in what they show you, but what they choose not to show you. With video, an agent has the ability to cut things that are not so fantastic about the property and tell the story the way they want to. That's the upside. That being said, unfortunately, I don't think people really watch a lot of them. I would say that unless your agent is the next Steven Spielberg, tell them to stick to just standard walkthrough videos. No need to try and make a story like it's going to be the next Citizen Kane. Just set the camera up and shoot slow sweeping shots of each room. That should be just as effective as it needs to be. As for new technology, I'm all for it as long as it doesn't distract from the story that I'm trying to tell. There's a lot of talk about drones now and how they're being used for real estate. It's sort of a buzzword, and everybody wants to use one for all of their listings. And I think it's going to make the sellers like you they just go, ooh, drone, ooh, please take my listing. But here's the thing: depending on your property, a drone might be the last thing you want to use to shoot your property. The reason, if you have an expansive lot with an acre of flat land and a riding arena for your 4 quarter horses, then yeah, a drone would be a great way to tell that story. But if your house has like a sliver of your yard and no place for kids to run out and play, then a drone is going to accentuate that issue. The use of a drone should be done judiciously on a case-by-case basis. This is, the exact opposite of my thoughts regarding photography. A professional photographer should be used every time. Drones, maybe, but make sure that it doesn't add. Please make sure that it adds to the story of the home and doesn't contradict it. There's also another type of new technology that I'm going to briefly discuss, and that's 3D models and VR. Virtual reality. There are some really exciting cutting-edge techs that are starting to reveal themselves out there. There's a company called Matterport that puts out a camera where you can create a 3-dimensional model of your home. Potential buyers, can sit comfortably in their homes, put on their VR glasses and tour your home. They can literally look around the house and see in every direction. They actually feel like they're there. It's really remarkable and groundbreaking. It's my belief that this will be a major part of how we show homes in the future. Agents and buyer clients won't have to go and see 10 houses a day anymore. They can, instead sit in an office or on their couch and basically narrow the 10 houses down to the 2 or 3 they actually might like. This is going to be huge for our industry. That being said, I think it's still a bit ahead of its time. If your agent doesn't have this in their arsenal at this point, don't fret. In the future, these 3D models will be ubiquitous. Right now, not everyone has the goggles. Not all the homes are getting scanned. So if your agent offers this as part of their marketing plan, cool, that's great, fantastic. you'll have something that not a lot of homes have, and you can use it to brag about it, right? It's another thing that you can talk to your friends about. But at this point, I wouldn't hold it against them if they haven't adopted the technology yet. Okay. So you now have your photos, your video, your description, all these pieces for telling a compelling emotional story. Now what? Well, you need someone to actually look at it, right? An audience. Now, it used to be that you would just pop those things on the MLS and cross your fingers and hope that someone else found out, you were selling your house. Now, there are a lot more options. There are all sorts of ways to get your story out. But because there are so many channels for your story, that makes it all the more important to have an agent that understands where the most attention is. You want to make sure that they are, marshaling most of their resources to put your home where the best return on their investment is. It used to be, everyone would pick up the Sunday paper, look at the latest home listings, circle the ones they wanted to take a look at, and then go out and see them. Now, newspaper circulation is way down. In my entire career, I've not heard one person say that they found a listing in the newspaper. It's a waste of your agents and your time and money. It's like flushing money down the toilet. It's sort of unreasonable at this point to ask your agent to do this. Instead, I'd be telling them to take that money and go to where all the eyeballs are. Where is that? Well, first of all, sites like, Zillow and Redfin. Now, I've talked about these guys before. I think these sites are the work of the devil and are filled with misleading, terrible information. But I can't deny that that's where the audience for your story is. Buyers are looking there. That means you need to make sure that your home is syndicated in such a way that they show up on those sites. In this day and age, to not do so would be, I feel, and I hate to say, negligent on the agent's part. Also, I would make sure that the agent is targeting audiences on Facebook. Facebook nowadays is the internet and where the majority of people spend their time. I mean, think about it. All these millions of people giving their personal information freely over to this one site. All this data can be used to find an audience that is laser targeted to be attracted to your home. It's like the difference of doing surgery with a scalpel versus a chainsaw. I'm not going to go too deeply into how I personally target audiences. I have my own proprietary way, but this is another really good litmus test of your agent to see if they know how to use the newest tools to get potential buyers. Your audience, into the seats to watch your story. At the end of the day, the audience's attention is everything. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter how amazing or emotional your story is. Now, before I go, there's one last aspect of telling the story of your home that I think is absolutely essential to doing it effectively and more importantly, evocatively to your audience. And that's telling your own personal story of the home. What does this mean? Well, that means letting us know about very detailed ways that you experienced the house. Did you throw parties every Saturday night with all your friends and family in the dining room, that looks out over the incredible view of the valley? Tell us. Did you wake up every morning and put on your yoga pants and do poses by the pool because it's so tranquil and peaceful in your backyard? Tell us. These are all incredibly powerful mental pictures that we can use to connect your home with a potential buyer. They may have their own stories they want to tell, but that doesn't mean that they can't be empathetic to yours. Those personal stories can ground them and bond them with your home. They picture doing these things right along with you, in your shoes. And as a reaction, they picture themselves in the house. No cold, one-size-fits-all system could ever do that. That kind of thing, that only comes from the heart. Well, that's about it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to leave them for us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Clarified Realty Podcast, all one word. You can email me directly at tom@clarifiedrealty.com. For more exclusive bonus content and advice between episodes, please check out our website, www.clarifiedrealty.com. Also on our homepage, you'll find links to helpful buyer and seller guides that can give you some great information for starting your home buying or home seller process. So check those out. I'm on Snapchat, Twitter, and as I mentioned, Instagram as well. My handle for all three of those are @ClarifiedRealty. I beg of you, please, please, please stop everything. Go and leave feedback and reviews on iTunes or in the comments section on our page. My amazing theme song, Hey Now, is from the band Wolf. That's Wolf with 2 F's. And please go check them out and like them on SoundCloud. We'll also leave a link to the song in the credits if we can. They rock so hard, any country they're in wants to build a huge wall to keep them in, not out. And just a little disclaimer, I'm licensed by the California Bureau of Real Estate. My license number is 01715353. The advice I give is only for properties located in the state of California. All other states, please contact your local real estate agent or real estate professional. Well, that's about it. Thanks for coming by, everybody. And remember, the greatest thing you can ever do is make someone feel at home. Take care, and we'll see you next week.